Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
On this episode of the Kindness Project, we talk about clothes, Valentines, and we have part one of our interview with Grant Maton from the Essex Wildlife Trust.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, other, to the...
Other? Who's other? I hope you're not including Raz in that other. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, hotheads, to the Kindness Project.
We're one of them can wear hats, the other can't. It's Chris Dames and Russell Dames.
And I'm joined by a girl who clearly thinks it's all right to come to work in a blanket. It's Charlotte Dames. I mean, Raz, would you come to work in a big... What is that?
It's my schnud.
Schnud?
And this is my own home. And it's 5 in the afternoon on a Sunday.
I thought schnud was like a balaclava thing. Is that what that's called, a schnud?
I quite like that. I quite like the look of that.
I've got like 3 of them. They're great.
Yeah, I'd give that a go.
I can see you knocking around the house dressed like that.
Yeah.
As well, Russ. I mean, literally, they are the most casual of casual wear.
Yeah, I quite like them.
Would you say they were pajama?
Well, I wear them all the time.
Would you wear one out in the street?
If I'm not comfortable, if I'm at home and I'm not wearing something comfortable, I'll tell you what I'm wearing off. Put this on.
Exactly. Russ, what do you wear when you're at home trying to get comfortable?
I know this is going to be a rabbit hole, but I usually go topless at home.
Is that because you're heading your hot boss? Is that why?
I know that.
You knew you were gonna get a bit of stick to say that.
I know, yeah.
So you just moved around topless, do you?
Yeah, wander around topless, yeah.
How about bottoms? What do you do about bottoms?
Oh, track bottoms.
Track bottoms and just completely naked. Do you any baby oil?
No baby oil. No.
Mayo?
No mayo.
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough.
I like mayo.
How about when it... now, we spoke on the podcast before about your natural heat sensitivity. Does that apply just to the head, or does that apply to the entire body?
No, I get very warm at home.
You wouldn't want one of these then? They're designed to keep you warm.
Russell, would you like me to take that shovel off you, mate?
Russ is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't he? He's just like...
This is what I get for being honest.
No, we love your honesty. We absolutely love it. So, but why
we
would you
appreciate you sharing, Russ.
Why would you look to wear one of them though?
Because sometimes when it's really cold,
really cold,
in the morning. So usually, if I put the heating on, I'm in a new build.
Yeah.
So if I haven't had the heating on, it gets really hot.
Yeah.
But in the morning, it's really cold.
And then what would you do if you were wearing one of them schnuds and it started getting hot?
I'd take it off.
Clearly, just walk around the house naked, I'd imagine, Russ. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Job done. Have you got neighbours?
Yeah, I've got neighbours. Yeah.
You ever scared the neighbours, Russ?
We're not overlooked. No.
Fair enough. No worries. Well, and I am trying to think of a really good connection to make to this week's question of the podcast, and maybe Kelly likes this sort of thing. But the question of the podcast is: what's the most romantic thing that you've ever done for somebody, or has somebody's done for you? And is your one walking around the house naked for Kelly, Russ?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
No.
What's the most romantic thing you've ever done?
I'm not overly romantic, so.
Fair enough. How about you, Charlotte? Has anybody done anything romantic for you?
No, not really.
We're not big romantics in the Kindness Project, clearly, because Cassie is amazing. I've got to say, she has done some romantic stuff.
This is in connection to the Valentine's Day stuff, though, isn't it?
It is.
Well, Valentine's Day doesn't have to be romantic, does it? It can be just loving your friends, loving your family.
You know what? I think Valentine's day can be as broad as you want it to.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
tell me about what you think Valentine's Day is about for you.
Just telling the people you love them.
Genuinely, I think one of the things that we could all do more, and I've tried to do more over the last couple of years, if you do love somebody, tell them you love them. Because I think all too often we are reticent to communicate that because it feels a bit awkward. But I think we should all...
Does it?
you know what you're saying, does it? Because in our family, we've never been shy to say that, have we? But there are certain families that think where that isn't said. And when I speak to somebody who hasn't had that, they say that they probably didn't hear it enough. So I think it is a nice thing to do. So
I say it practically every time I leave the room.
I know. How about you, Rose? You're not. Are you comfortable with that language or not?
I'm not overly keen on that.
It's what works for you, Russ.
Whatever works for you, Rose. But I think
I tell Kelly I love her regular.
How often?
Usually when I want something,
Oh.
which is quite often.
Yeah, I tell you what, you're not painting yourself as a particular like partner of the year, Russ. Let's be honest. This is not going well for you today. Firstly, we have the wandering around the house, either super warm or super cold, and now you're in a position where you're not romantic. But I bet you any money you like, Charlotte, we have got plenty of romantic listeners. So we are looking forward to hearing from you, and you can get in touch with us in the following ways.
So on Twitter, we're at Ola Kindness. On Facebook, if you type the Kindness Project into the search bar, we will come up. If we don't, why not? Sorry.
Right to Google. I was
actually talking about Facebook.
Right to Facebook. Right to Mark Zuckerberg personally and go, I'm looking for the Kindness Project. Why are they not showing up?
If you want to find our website, it's www.thekindnessproject.co.uk, which should have all of the social media linky dinks anyway.
It's got the linky dinks. I don't know why we're calling it the linky dinks now, but it's got the linky dinks. The other thing you can do, and I was doing this the other day, Russ, is listen to any one of our now hundreds of podcast episodes. And I was listening to a selection of some of my personal favourites the other day.
On what device?
Sorry?
On what device?
I was doing it on my PC.
You always forget the Alexa, though.
Yeah, you can get them on the Alexa. Russell, we've got an Alexa quite close to us, so if you wouldn't mind.
Alexa, what's the definition of a hot head?
My one's going off now.
It doesn't know. But yeah, you can listen to the Kindness Project on Alexa. I am trying to trigger it and see what it does now. But saying, Alexa, play the Kindness Project podcast, I think is what you'd say. And then we just pop up. So if you're in your kitchen or sort of you've got an Alexa in your lounge,
you're wandering around your house without your top on.
All you're doing is using your freedom to wander around your house topless, and you're a bit bored and you want to listen to a podcast. All you need to go is, Alexa, is it right that I'm topless in the middle of February wandering around my house? Alexa's got an answer for that one. I can hear her in the background. Or Alexa, just play the Kindness Project podcast and it will come on. So feel free to do that at your leisure. And I can now hear.
Here's a popular playlist, Pop Singles, on Amazon Music.
Oh, apparently we've got some pop singles on Amazon Music now. And on that note, let's move on with the show. And we've got we've clearly not got but we've clearly got a man who's struggling to open his phone. We've got turning some sort of weird seal. We have got the first part of
Kindness News.
And we've got a couple of. Oh,
It's okay, you can go now.
thank you. We have got kindergarten kids, an American news article. American news article today.
American News article.
Oh, Russ. This is American news. Genuinely, can I just tell this story before I get to kindness news? I took Sophie, who regular listeners will know is a regular contributor to the show. My youngest daughter who's 10, and I took her skateboarding and scootering over our local skate park today, and she was making some of the strangest noises as she was practicing.
Oh, that's so fun, isn't it?
Practicing tricks. One of them, she fell off her skateboard and managed to just go whoop, and I don't know where that comes from. Where does it? I mean, have you ever fell off a skateboard while whooping, Russ?
No.
Oh, all right, fair enough. Let's go on the show.
Russ, have you ever ridden on a skateboard?
I haven't, no.
Well, see,
Why have you
that's
ridden-
where your floor is.
All right. Have you ever whooped? Have you ever randomly whooped?
I do make funny noises sometimes.
Oh, here we go. Go
Yeah.
on, tell us about them, Russ.
Yeah. I might whoop on the odd occasion, or I might burst out into
Tears.
the cheer.
A
Especially when
chair? A
Especially when
random chair?
yeah, especially when I'm playing football. Like the football manager.
So you're sitting on your laptop, and then suddenly you burst out in a whoop or a random cheer.
Yeah.
Help us and our listeners understand what that sounds like, Russ.
It's usually the scorer's name, followed by a come on son.
Go on, then give us a random scorer's name. Who's your top scorer in your club?
No, we're not going to go down.
No.
that road. No,
No, it's a funny name.
No's a no. No.
no, no.
No, go on, my son.
No, son, no.
So give me. I'll do it. And you can tell me whether it's accurate. Go on.
Yeah, go on.
Give me a footballer's name.
Mbappe.
Mbappe. Is it Mbappe? Go on, my son.
No, something like that, yeah.
Something like that, but not
Yeah.
from us. So we'd love to hear what it
A
is.
little bit louder.
Go on, show us.
Oh, Mbappe. Come on, son.
It's quite aggressive, isn't it? Your version of celebration.
You know what? I'm surprised.
Mbappe.
I'm surprised there's no Russell Dames memes yet.
There should be. There needs to be. I've just got this image. I've got this image of one meme where it's Russell and then the angry one from Inside Out, and just separated at birth at the bottom. Right, okay. So kindergarten kids had never seen snow, so a Florida teacher gets sisters to ship a snowman out to them. An 800-mile, $78 journey from Kentucky to Florida brought the smiling snowman to a classroom full of kids. Many of them had never laid an eye, much less a finger, on snow. If one has family from Florida, it's normal to find that they've never seen snow. That was the case for kindergarten teacher Robin Hughes, who realised almost all of the kids in a Florida classroom had never laid eyes on frozen precipitation after flipping through a book about snow with them. It was this realisation following a trip home for Thanksgiving that drove her to ask a curious request of her sister Amber, who lives in Louisa, Kentucky. She asked if S could mail her some of it on the off chance that it snowed this year. Fast forward to January the 8th, and knowing Estes was due for about 10 inches of snow, Hughes requested that she build a snowman for her classroom. Thus was born Lucky, a snowman with blueberries, carrots, and twigs for eyes, nose, and arms, respectively. Sealed in a temperature-controlled package. I mean, that is a bizarre delivery, isn't it? What's like Royal Mail or UPS turn up at your door? Why do you need this? Are you shipping some food? No, I'm shipping a snowman.
It's going to make a lot of kids really happy.
It is. Lucky flew the priority package to Riverview in Florida. He's here. The school receptionist shouted through the halls when the package was delivered. Despite a blueberry shifting in transit, Lucky arrived intact and unmelted in time to be revealed to the kids, who received him in utter wonderment. I love that phrase, utter wonderment. I was so excited because he made it, and just the pure joy the kids had seeing this snowman. They wanted to touch him and asked, is he coming to life? And what a lovely story. You know what? I think, particularly for children, snow is such an exciting thing. Don't you, Russ?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what do you think, Charlotte? Do you like snow?
I really like snow. It's really sad because I haven't seen snow in ages.
No, but when it comes, it is super exciting. So not seeing snow is one of those things where you want to make sure that at least once in your life you're doing that. Kindness story 2. Bee bricks help thousands of solitary. Oh, go on. Do you want to read it now?
Oh, I like these. So since 250 of the 270 bee species in Britain are solitary buzzers, the city of Brighton and Hove is establishing mandates to use bee bricks in construction of all buildings above 5 metres to help encourage these solitary species to nest in them. Bee bricks are what appears to be blocks of Swiss cheese, which are actually normal building bricks created with small cavities into which bees typically nest. Old brick buildings and crumbling walls have been observed as excellent habitats for bees, and so Brighton and Hove are trying to deploy this simple invention to offer more room on the metaphorical bed for the pollinating insects. They have also mandated swift bricks, which offer the same comfort of home, only for nesting swifts, tiny birds that spend a few months in the UK and then migrate to Africa. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds is consulting with the government to identify which height on which buildings are ideal for the swift bricks.
Amazing.
Bee bricks are just one of a number of measures that really should be in place to address biodiversity concerns that have arisen through years of neglect of the natural environment, said Robert Nemeth, the town councillor behind the initiative. Not everyone agrees that these bee bricks are a good idea. Some point to a lack of evidence that the holes are large enough for a bee nest, that they have a population impact, or that the holes have to be cleaned to prevent harmful mites from residing there. However, there are studies that find bees will build nests inside these holes and cap the entryways to hibernate. Sometimes scientists add that the mites will disappear after 1 or 2 seasons and they don't need to be cleaned. Green and Blue is an example of an eco-fused construction firm that currently offer bee bricks in the standard portfolio of building materials, as the differences in cost between normal bricks and bee swift bricks are negligible. Lars Chitka, a professor in sensory and behavioural ecology at Queen Mary University, told The Guardian that bees naturally possess hygienic behaviour that would allow them to mitigate the risks at least to some extent, or that they would assess the whole states before using them, which should to some extent counterbalance the risks that come with such long-term nesting opportunities.
Amazing. And why do you like that story tonight?
Oh, it's just so sweet that they're giving these bees like new homes.
And that I mean, it's interesting that the part of the challenge we've got is as we build more and as we look at ways that we impact our environment, we do need to consider the fact that nature is at home in our environment.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and we need to think about how we potentially accommodate nature in when we do something to the planet. Really, it's really interesting. And on that note, actually, it's a really good introduction to our interview this week, which is with Grant Maton from the Essex Wildlife Trust. And funny enough, one of the conversations we do have is about making sure that we're in a position where we do more to support nature in our environment. So should we listen to the interview with Grant?
Yes.
Great.
Hi, Grant. Thanks for joining us on the Kindness podcast today. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
Good.
I've just had a meeting with Seb, actually.
Oh, good stuff. So you've been in the CME Centre, which is where, for our listeners of the podcast, this will mean nothing to you guys, particularly if you're listening in another country. But we're based in a place called the CME Centre, which is on the Essex-London borders. It's where my office is, my work office is. And Grant's come to join us here to talk about the Wildlife Trust. So firstly, before we do the Wildlife Trust bit, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, about me, I've always been passionate about wildlife since I was a kid. My dad was an insurance broker up in London in the 1960s and 70s, and I was born in 1962, and I've just grown up with wildlife. But I spent sort of nearly 25 years in the city on various careers in financial advising, futures market, all sorts of things like that. And I never thought that I would be able to follow my passion for nature conservation and wildlife, etc. And I basically back in 2006 I had a light bulb moment and gave up the city career and followed my dreams and got a job with Essex Wildlife Trust.
Amazing. Talk to me a bit about your enduring memory as a kid and nature. When did that, what was the thing that stands out the most?
Well, the thing about, I'm going to be 60 this year. When I was a kid, nature was abundant. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
And
where did you live?
I lived in Rochford.
Okay.
So sort of an area where a lot of people from the East End of London moved out of places like Walthamstow to Rochford onto the new housing estates in the 1950s that were built after the war. But the good thing is there was still lots of countryside, lots of nature to see. And my dad used to take us
for walks.
For walks, and we used to catch sort of newts and slowworms and frogs and toads and lizards and all sorts of things because they were abundant. And at the time, you didn't feel like they all had to be protected. So I kind of grown up with, I used to have a vivarium, which is a place where you can keep some of these things in my shed, and so I used to observe wildlife. I had 2 ponds in the garden that my dad allowed me to
what did you have in the ponds?
It didn't have fish. We just literally had frogs, newts, toads, all sorts of things like that. So for me, wildlife was just something that was always there from when I was a toddler, and but when I became sort of a teenager, I noticed things changed. We started to do lots of development. The ponds that I'd grown up with as a kid started to get filled in.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know at the time because I wasn't really involved with Essex Wildlife Trust, but that was when Essex Wildlife Trust were formed. They were founded in 1959 because of the very thing that I've just mentioned, property development.
Yeah, so urbanisation.
Urbanisation is meaning that all the places that I grew up as a kid was being concreted over.
Gotcha.
And because we needed somewhere to live, and we're not saying we don't need somewhere to live, but it just didn't take wildlife into account.
Yeah.
And
because those places that were being developed on, I'd imagine, were the habitats of the wildlife that were there.
And the planners didn't really appreciate what was being bulldozed over for these big housing developments. There wasn't the regulation in those days for the developers to adhere to, and there was so much countryside that at the time it didn't seem like we were causing too much damage. Yeah. But obviously we were. And
I'd imagine that. I mean, we can talk about this a little bit later on, but there's a slippery slope.
There is a slippery
slope. Once it starts, it's difficult to stop.
Yeah, and I lived on a housing estate that was called the Holt Farm estate. And it was because it was Holt Farm. And Holt Farm doesn't exist anymore. With nice sort of road names like Larkfield Close and Ashcombe and things like that. Well, sadly, the ash and the larks have gone.
So you mentioned about sort of the trust being set up in 59. Was it 59 you said? Talk to me a little bit about the purpose of the trust and why it exists.
Well, originally it was set up by literally in somebody's living room.
Okay.
A guy called Don Humford and various other people. I don't know all of their names, but there were a number of trusts. There are 46 wildlife trusts across the country, and they were all formed. Some of them were formed in the 1920s, some of them were formed in the 50s and 60s, different sort of age sort of ranges. But they were mainly started up by people who were so worried about the development that they realised that nature had to have a voice. And so they started off as small little groups, they set up small charities, and they started to see whether they could purchase land. Some of it might be land that was already a nature reserve as such, but didn't actually have the name nature reserve. So they look out for places of good value from a nature point of view, and they've all grown since then to what we are now. The Wildlife Trust movement. So they, as I say, they started off literally with maybe a couple.
So it started off as like independent little charities.
Yeah, they were mainly
without each other, and then came as a collective.
Yeah, there wasn't a cohesion. So there was one starting off in. Well, in fact, Essex Wildlife Trust was originally called the Essex Naturalist Society.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't even called the Essex Wildlife Trust. And I don't even know what the name of the Suffolk Wildlife Trust, Norfolk Wildlife Trust, etc., what they started off as. But that's how they all started. And then in recent times, they coalesced around what we call the Royal Society of Wildlife Trusts, or the Wildlife Trust. Yeah. Which is our national body, which represents all. And
I'd imagine there's strength in power, isn't there, in terms of getting all of these interested organisations together.
Yeah, because initially, obviously, if you're Essex Wildlife Trust, you might only be able to influence things in Essex. Essex County Council or with the businesses in Essex and everything. Whereas, obviously, if you want to represent the nature and nature conservation to the government, it's much better if you go along as the Royal Society of Wildlife Trusts as a collective than the government, because if you look at the wildlife trusts, the 46 of us, there's over 800,000 members across the country, of which 39,000 are based in Essex. Right. It's much better if you go to large organisations, large national businesses, international businesses, and governments. It's better if you go representing 800,000 members than 39,000 members. Also, it helps us talk with one voice. It confuses bigger organisations if we talk with 46 voices. But our advantage locally is we can talk with one voice in Essex.
And I suppose there's elements that you can do locally, but without policy change, some of those local efforts are going to be lost, aren't they?
I mean, some of the big sort of nature and environmental sort of laws, are brought in across the whole country. So we need them to be robust enough to protect not just. Essex is renowned for its salt marshes, but there are other counties that are renowned for their heathlands, or their coastal areas, or their peat bogs.
So their priorities are different.
Yeah, so their priorities are different. But what we want is the wildlife laws to protect all habitats and all wildlife. It's just that certain counties will have a bias towards.
But you know what's interesting? It's the role of nature and wildlife in our lives, and weirdly, I don't know about you, but I think it's become more prominent in the last 2 years when we've all been at home. So I've been lucky enough to, I'm lucky enough to live on the sort of back of a county park, and walking, and actually I'm a runner, so running in the county park was my mental health godsend during the pandemic, particularly as I was completely failing at homeschooling a 10-year-old. That didn't go well, I've got to be honest. And I think there is a mental health benefit to being out in nature. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I probably many of your listeners will resonate with this. I probably, even though I work for Essex Wildlife Trust and am passionate about nature, I don't think I've got to know my local woods and my local nature reserves more than the last 2 years. because with all the lockdowns and the social distancing and all sorts of things where we can't go up to London, we can't go on holiday and everything, the only thing you could do was walk down to the local park or the local woods and everything.
I mean, to be fair, my dog's never been walked more in the last 2 years. I think it got to a point at the end of lockdown 1 where he was like, I don't want any more walks. I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we smiled about in a way was, some of our because of the lockdown, some of our paths actually got wider and wider.
Yes,
because everybody was trying to socially distance. So what was normally a path that hadn't been used much before the lockdown.
Yeah, people were just using it.
Yeah, so suddenly the path was 2 meters wide. Because we're all trying to socially distance and everything. But that was it was a good problem to have, actually. It meant a lot more people,
and more people are appreciating it, right? That's the thing. So that's what I want to do is have a look a bit of the wider picture, and then focus on it specifically. So, what do you think the challenges are for wildlife trusts in the UK more generally?
Well, I work on the corporate side, so I work on the corporate fundraising side for Essex Wildlife Trust, and the challenges are obviously, we've had recently the COP26 meeting up in Scotland, where we had all the world leaders talking about carbon reduction and the climate crisis and things like that. Which is all well and good, very, very lovely, lofty words, etc. Lots of things, agreements signed, etc. But the main problem is trying to drill that down to how you convert that into local
practical
action, and how small businesses, individuals, obviously I'm talking mainly on the business side, but even individuals, how can we influence change where people can make a difference. We make it easy for them because we educate them about some of the things they can do. We make it cost effective as well. You can't tell everybody all your petrol and diesel cars are going to be obsolete in 9 years' time without a solution. So it's a case of really kind of learning the best practice from some of the businesses that have already been doing this for 20, 30 years before it was necessary or before it was fashionable. It's finding innovative companies and individuals who are coming up with solutions. So, for instance, there's a whole raft of renewable energy starting to come on stream and things like that, locally and nationally and internationally. So the biggest challenge is taking us all on the same journey. Even Essex Wildlife Trust, we've only just got what we call our Green Dragon accreditation, which is the benchmark that we've aligned ourselves to work out our carbon footprint, because we didn't know our own carbon footprint. Even as a wildlife conservation charity, yes, wildlife conservation is our passion, it's our remit as a charity, but there's bigger things that we need to do. Because we could do the best wildlife conservation work in Essex, but if we destroy the Brazilian rainforest,
if you're not involved in look at the bigger picture,
and that affects the whole climate, then all the good work we've done in Essex just gets undone because we,
and so that's yes, how do we? And I suppose part of that is education, isn't it? Helping people understand the impact of their decisions on nature.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the balance between obviously carrying on with our conservation work that we've been doing since 1959, building on that conservation work, trying to help Essex become a greener county, get property developers to maybe make a place for nature. We've got a 30 by 30 campaign where we'd like 30% of Essex to be under what we call positive conservation, to increase what we call is biodiversity, which is basically increasing the amount of species that there are out there. Without stopping business functioning, without we know
getting the balance right.
And so we're on a steep learning curve. But the idea is that as a conservation charity, hopefully businesses, individuals, local authorities, those that are wanting to make a difference can learn from us, but equally we can learn from them.
Great.
So that was part 1 of the interview with Grant. Part 2 will be next week. More chat from Grant from the Essex Wildlife Trust. All good stuff. But on that note, 'Tis the end.
Tis the end of another podcast, but the end is never truly the end because the end is always the beginning of something entirely new. And last week's question of the podcast will be answered today by you. So last week's question of the podcast was, what's the best sport in the Winter Olympics?
Steve Dan says he absolutely loves the curling, and as we record this, we've won a couple of medals in the curling, which is good news. Dave Gannon said he loves snowboarding. Steve Stewart said curling, closely followed by bobsleigh, but only when the Jamaicans are involved. Yeah, man.
No,
Steve
never
Chilton said moguls. Sam Chilton said snowball cross. The dog said wolf. Matthew Warren said is snowball fighting in it. I'd love to see snowball fighting.
How would you do a point system with it, though?
Easy. You just colour the snowball like you do like paintball, throw the snowball, and then if it stains, then you're in a position where you win a point. There you go. Jonathan Gaffney said bobsleigh way. Sean Acton likes the downhill skiing. Al McCann, long track speed skating. It's soothing and they actually raise the clock, not against each other. Dave Falls likes
the mogul skiing with 2 jumps on the way down always blows my mind. Such a hard test of strength, skill, flexibility, and coordination. Snowboarding is also very cool, Chris Dames. I'm with you on that.
John Cook also wanted to know whether snowball fight was a sport. And Bedrick Floyd said curling, bobsleigh, and speed skating too. Tam Kane said the crazy one where they lie on a tray and go 8 miles an hour down an ice-covered half pipe. Luge, I think it's called. That is called luge. And that is, like, it's just mad. Like, it's no protection. You're on a ice board and you're just going down this massively big hill. And Brian Hill, I think he means sort of what do they call that? Ski ballet, ice dancing,
figure skating.
The
one I like.
Brian Hill likes figure skating. And on Twitter, Eileen Murphy said snowboarding is good and great that so many young people can do it. And on that note, my friends, that's the end of another podcast. Lovely to have you join us. See you next week on the Kindness Project.
Bye.
Bye.